want to talk to you about the youth, right? Because you work with kids all the time, probably almost every day of the week, right? I understand the importance of education, staying active as a young kid, having people in your life that can influence you in the future. So I wanted to know your opinion on just like everything that's going on in today's society with youth, whether it's with technology, school,
This is a topic I can go on forever, so I'm just going to make a few quick...
No, go ahead.
I'm going to make it short. I think the technology... Okay, I'll use an example. I babysit 2 kids. I mean, I'm always around kids every day because I have younger nephews. I babysit. I tutor kids, all that stuff. But the 2 specific kids that I babysit, often they are like attached to their iPad. They are attached to the TV screen. And for some parents, they're cool with it and they're like, all right, they're leaving me alone and they're occupied. It's great. But I feel like they are so like attached to it that they can't live without it. And Michael also has ADHD, but he literally will throw fits if he cannot watch a YouTube video or something like that. I think that parents definitely need to, but they are also at the same time very active. Right. And that's where I give, my boss credit because she doesn't like them being on the iPads all the time. So I love her for that because both of the parents, they don't like them and they'll take the iPads away during the week. And during the summer, they go to sports camp and all that stuff. Right. So they're very active children, which is great. And I think that for the parents, they need to, get their kids involved in things and they need to get them outside and active and all that stuff because if they just become, they can learn a lot from technology. They can learn a lot from the internet, but they can also learn very stupid things. And they are also doing that because they have learned, like Michael sometimes will, think it's cool to try and curse. The kid is 9. Like it's not, I don't like that. And then like the 6-year-old Leo, he'll try to do that too. So it's like they can learn really great things, but they can also learn really bad things. Right. And then another thing that's kind of like a little off topic, but I want to say it because it's part of my field, and I work with kids with ADHD and dyslexia and all that stuff. I mean, they don't, but my other kid does. Early intervention is a huge thing, and it's something that parents need to learn. There's a lot of parents that are in denial, and they're like, no, not my kid, not my kid, not my kid. But it's huge. And I know probably parents aren't watching this, but for anybody, if you grow up to be parents, if you think that there might be something a little off with your kid, get them tested right away while they're young. What is
early intervention for anyone who doesn't know?
Early intervention is basically if you think, so let's say there's a mom and she has a 5-year-old kid and she sees signs of autism in him. She'll go get them tested or evaluated by a doctor. And the doctor will, obviously evaluate the kid and see if, he's on the spectrum or not, or if there's any behavioral issues or anything like that. And early intervention is basically you're catching it young and you're doing something about it, like getting them the therapy that they need, an ABA specialist or a speech therapist or whatever it may be. Early intervention is starting it young and getting the therapy young, because if they find it, as soon as they see signs, especially if they're a young kid, but even if they're a little bit older and see signs, the earlier you start to, treat it, the better that the person can become and the better their life can be. But, there's people that function with, mental disabilities or whatever. That's fine. But the earlier you catch it, the more you can help. And that's something that I'm learning a lot more about. And it's great because, the kids I babysit, they're 6 and 9, and the mom already knows that they have ADHD, and she's working on it. Right. And that's amazing because they can learn how to live with it in an easier way. And I think that's really important. So I have to say that.
And I see where you're coming from, and I'm going to kind of take it into my perspective with my field, right? I work a lot with neighborhoods that aren't very well off, right? I'm in a lot of neighborhoods that a lot of people don't, they tell you not to go to, right? For the people in those neighborhoods, if you're listening, if you don't have the money to find the signs right away, and you think that your son may have something, or your daughter, or someone you need help on something, don't be afraid to call somebody and do your research, right? I always say try and teach yourself as much as you can. And if people don't know, a lot of these neighborhoods that aren't well off, they don't have a lot of local doctors. You have to go far for a hospital, and it's expensive, and you don't have the money for some of these treatments. Try and do your own research. Try and talk to people. Try and go to events. Try and figure things out so you could kind of see where your son or daughter or someone you love is at, right?
And try to help them the best you can. I agree with that 100% because some people aren't fortunate enough to be able to go to a doctor and get them evaluated or a psychologist or whatever. But one thing I would say to counteract that is just be careful with self-diagnosis or diagnosing a loved one, because that's difficult. Because you don't exactly know. You're not trained properly to do that. So don't medicate or anything like that. But if you want to try and do like therapy on your own, you can try, but just be careful with it, because you never know if you're doing the right thing or if it might hurt the kid or whoever it is, a friend or your loved one, more. I would just say one thing with that is just be careful if you do that. But definitely if you don't.
And another thing I'd like to touch on that Kayla spoke about was the people in general with disabilities. People in general with disabilities. People in general, our elderly, our elders. We need to kind of. I know it's hard because we're young and we're just trying to have a good time. We're trying to live our lives. But sometimes we have to sit back and realize that we are ignoring some communities in our society, right? Like, there are so many kids, adults, middle-aged people with disabilities who need help and they don't have it. Like, that need, like, you don't know what a one conversation could do. You don't know what one day a week of volunteering could do. You don't know what 1 hour of spending with an elderly person could do, So if I could urge anybody who's listening to try and get out into the community and do as much as you can, or not even in your community, one of your family members, like your grandmother, you haven't talked to her in a couple of days, give her a call, go to her house, do these things, because when you're in these states that they are in, you're going to feel the same way. And
I couldn't agree more.
And, we have to get into these communities, into these areas that we don't pay any attention to in our society, and we have to, kind of look at them.